I stood in that hallway outside my own daughter's wedding reception, and I felt my heart crack right down the middle. The sounds of laughter and music floated through the open doors, and there I was, staring at a metal folding chair that had been set up for me in the corridor. Not at a table, not with family, in the hallway, like I was waiting to see the principal. My name is Lorraine Mitchell, and I raised my daughter Brianna by myself, after her father walked out when she was 3 years old. I worked double shifts as a nurse for 23 years to give her everything. Dance classes, private school, college tuition paid in full. I sacrificed dates, vacations, and my own dreams so she could have hers. And this was where it led, to a folding chair in a hallway. "Mrs. Mitchell, you can sit right here," the wedding coordinator had said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. She wouldn't even look me in the eye. Behind her, I could see my future mother-in-law, Claudette Harrison, watching with this satisfied smirk on her face. That woman had been a thorn in my side since the day Brianna brought Terrence home 2 years ago. Claudette was one of those light-skinned black women who thought she was better than everybody else. She belonged to the fancy church downtown, the one where all the doctors and lawyers went. She drove a Mercedes and carried Louis Vuitton bags and never let you forget it. From day one, she made it clear she thought her precious son was marrying beneath him. I looked past the coordinator and caught Brianna's eye, my baby girl, my only child. She was standing there in her beautiful white dress, the one I helped pay for, and when she saw me looking at that hallway chair, she actually giggled. She covered her mouth with her hand and giggled, then leaned over and whispered something to Terrence. Before we continue, please comment below, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel to help us reach that big 1,000 subscriber milestone. I walked up to my daughter slowly. My legs felt heavy, like I was moving through water. "Brianna, baby, is this really where I'm supposed to sit? There must be some mistake." She looked at me with these cold eyes I didn't recognize. "Mama, we talked about this. The tables inside are for close family only. You understand, right?" "Close family?" My voice cracked. "Baby, I'm your mother." Claudette appeared at Brianna's elbow like a vulture circling prey. "Now, Lorraine, don't make a scene. This is Brianna's special day. The seating arrangements have been carefully planned. Terrence's family and our important guests are inside. You'll be perfectly comfortable out here." I looked around at the carefully planned seating. Terrence's cousins I'd never even met were sitting at tables inside. His co-workers were laughing and eating. But me, the woman who gave birth to the bride? I got a folding chair in the hallway. "Where's my place card?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Everyone has a place card with their name." Brianna shifted uncomfortably. "Well, Mama, we ran out of space at the tables, so we thought—" "You thought I don't count," I finished for her. The words hung in the air like smoke. "That's not what I said," Brianna snapped, and there was real anger in her voice now, like I was the one being unreasonable. Like I was ruining her perfect day by having the audacity to expect to be treated like a human being. Claudette's smirk grew wider. "If you're going to be difficult about this, Lorraine, perhaps it's best if you just leave. We don't need any drama today." Something inside me broke. Or maybe it finally healed. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and I didn't recognize the person standing in front of me. This wasn't the little girl who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms. This wasn't the teenager who cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke her heart. This was a stranger wearing my daughter's face. I reached into my purse and pulled out the thick cream-colored envelope I'd been carrying. Inside was a check for $15,000. It was my savings, money I'd been putting away for years, scraping together from overtime shifts and side jobs. I'd planned to give it to Brianna as a wedding gift, to help her and Terrence with a down payment on a house. "What's that?" Brianna asked, her eyes lighting up when she saw the envelope. Even through her coldness, greed still shone through. I held it up so she could see it clearly. "This was going to be your wedding gift, $15,000, for your future, for your home." Brianna's whole demeanor changed. She reached for it, smiling for the first time since I'd arrived. "Oh, Mama, thank you. This is going to help so much with—" I pulled it back. "Was going to be." The smile froze on her face. "What?" "You said I'm not close family," I said quietly. My voice was steady now, calm even. "You said I don't count enough to sit at a table with my own daughter on her wedding day. So why would I give a gift to someone who treats me like I'm nobody?" Claudette gasped. "How dare you, on her wedding day?" But I wasn't looking at Claudette. I was looking at Brianna, watching her face change as she realized what I was about to do. "Mama, wait. Don't be like that. We can work this out. Let me just—" "You had a chance to work it out," I said. "You had a chance when you were planning this wedding. You had a chance when your future mother-in-law told you to put me in a hallway. You had a chance when you saw that folding chair and didn't say a word. You had so many chances, baby, and you chose her over me every single time." I turned to leave and Brianna grabbed my arm, hard. "You're not taking that money." I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back up at her face. "Let go." "That money is mine," she hissed. "You promised." "I promised to give my daughter a wedding gift," I said, pulling my arm free. "But I don't see my daughter here. All I see is a woman who treats her mother like trash because her new family thinks they're too good for where they came from." Terrence stepped forward then, trying to play peacemaker. "Now, Miss Lorraine, let's not be hasty. I'm sure we can find you a proper seat inside. Mama, we can make room, can't we?" But Claudette's face had gone hard as stone. "We will do no such thing. The seating is final. If she wants to leave over something so petty, let her." Petty? The word exploded out of me. I worked myself to the bone for 23 years raising that girl by myself. I paid for her education, her apartment, her car. I gave her everything. And you call me petty for wanting to be treated with basic respect at her wedding? People were starting to stare now. Guests were peeking out from the reception, wondering what the commotion was. I could see my sister Rochelle pushing through the crowd, her face alarmed. "Lorraine," Rochelle called out, "what's going on?" "Ask your niece," I said, my voice breaking. "Ask her why her mama's not good enough to sit at a table." Rochelle looked from me to Brianna, and I saw understanding dawn on her face. "Bri, what did you do?" "Auntie, stay out of this," Brianna warned. But Rochelle wasn't having it. She was my baby sister, only 54, and she'd helped me raise Brianna. She'd babysat countless nights, helped with homework, been there for every recital and graduation. "You put your mama in the hallway?" Girl, have you lost your mind? Rochelle, this doesn't concern you, Claudette interjected. This is between Brianna and her mother. The hell it doesn't concern me, Rochelle's voice rose. That's my sister you're disrespecting. That's my niece acting like she don't know who raised her. Brianna's face was red now, embarrassed in front of her wedding guests. Everybody needs to calm down. Mama, if you'll just sit down and stop making a scene. I'm leaving, I said simply. Enjoy your wedding. Enjoy your new family. I hope they treat you better than you treated me. I started walking toward the exit, and Brianna's voice turned desperate. Mama, wait, please. What about the money? I didn't turn around. What money? I don't give gifts to people who don't consider me close family. Mama, she was crying now, real tears. But I couldn't tell if they were for me or for the $15,000 walking out the door. Please don't do this. We need that money. We already spent the down payment on the house counting on you. I stopped walking. Slowly, I turned around. You spent money you didn't have yet? Terrence had the decency to look ashamed. We were so sure you'd help us. You always help. You mean you've been counting on me being too weak to stand up for myself, I said. You thought I'd take whatever scraps you threw me and be grateful. You thought I'd smile and sit in that hallway and hand over my life savings because that's what good mothers do, right? They let themselves be walked on? Rochelle came to stand beside me, her hand on my shoulder. Come on, sis, let's go. But before I could take another step, Claudette spoke up. If you walk out that door with that money, Lorraine, you'll never see your daughter again. I'll make sure of it. The threat hung in the air like poison. I looked at Brianna, waiting for her to say something, to tell her mother-in-law she was out of line. But Brianna just stood there, tears running down her face, not saying a word. Then I guess I won't see her, I said quietly, because I'm done being treated like I'm nothing. I walked out of that hotel with my head held high and my envelope in my hand, and I didn't look back. Behind me, I could hear Brianna crying, calling my name, but I kept walking. Rochelle was right beside me, squeezing my shoulder, whispering that I did the right thing. We got to my car, and that's when I finally broke down. I sat in the driver's seat and sobbed like I hadn't cried since Brianna's father left. All those years of sacrifice, all those nights working doubles, all those times I went without so she could have more. And this was what I got, a folding chair in a hallway and a daughter who valued money more than her own mother. Rochelle held me while I cried. She'll come around, she kept saying. She'll realize what she did. She'll come back. But I wasn't sure I wanted her to. Not anymore. I drove home to my little house in the old neighborhood, the one I'd raised Brianna in. The one Claudette had called quaint, in that way that really meant poor. I sat in my living room surrounded by pictures of my daughter, her first day of school, her high school graduation, her college diploma. Every major moment of her life was on these walls, and I'd been there for all of them, but she couldn't even give me a chair at a table. My phone started ringing around 9 that night. It was Brianna. I let it go to voicemail. She called 6 more times. I didn't answer. Then Terrence called. Then Claudette, probably to tell me what a terrible mother I was. I turned my phone off and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and 32 text messages. I made myself some coffee and sat down to read them, They started off angry. How could you ruin my wedding? Everyone is asking where you went. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Then they turned desperate. Mama, please call me back. We need to talk about the money. Please, we're in trouble. And finally, threatening. If you don't give us that money, we're going to lose the house. This is all your fault. Don't expect to be part of this family anymore. I sat there reading these messages from my only child, and I felt something shift inside me. The grief was still there, heavy and real, but underneath it was something else, something that felt a lot like freedom. I called Rochelle. I need a lawyer, I told her. A lawyer for what? I want to know my rights, I said. I want to know if there's anything they can do to come after me for that money. I want to protect myself. Rochelle was quiet for a moment. Lorraine, you thinking they might try to sue you? I don't know what they might do, I admitted, but I'm done being unprepared. I'm done being the one who gets walked on. If they want to fight, I need to be ready. She gave me the name of a lawyer she knew, a Black woman named Candace Reynolds who specialized in family law. I made an appointment for Monday morning. That Sunday, I went to church alone. I'd been going to First Baptist for 30 years, and everyone knew me and Brianna. Everyone knew I'd raised her by myself. When I walked in without her the day after her wedding, people noticed. Sister Patricia came up to me after service. She was one of those church mothers who'd known me since I was a young woman. "Where's that new bride?" she asked, smiling. "Did they leave for their honeymoon already?" I took a deep breath. "Sister Patricia, can we talk in private?" We went into one of the Sunday school rooms, and I told her everything. The hallway chair, the missing place card, the money, all of it. By the time I finished, Sister Patricia's face was set in hard lines. "That girl lost her mind," she said flatly, "and that mother-in-law of hers is the devil in designer clothes." Despite everything, I almost laughed. "Sister Patricia!" "I'm serious," she said. "I've seen women like that before. They get a little money and forget where they came from. Forget that God don't care about your car or your purse or what church you go to. All he cares about is what's in your heart." She grabbed both my hands in hers. "You did the right thing, baby. You taught your daughter a lesson she needed to learn. You can't treat people like they're disposable, especially not the woman who gave you life." "She's not talking to me anymore," I said, my voice small. "She sent me all these terrible messages." "Let her be mad," Sister Patricia said firmly. "Let her sit in what she did. Sometimes people need to lose something before they understand what they had. And if she don't come around," she squeezed my hands, "then you still got your dignity, and that's worth more than any amount of money." I left church feeling lighter than I had in days, but when I got home, there was a car in my driveway, a Mercedes. My stomach dropped. Claudette Harrison was sitting on my porch. She stood up when she saw me, and her face was all hard angles and cold eyes. "We need to talk," she said. "I don't think we have anything to say to each other," I replied, walking past her to my front door. She grabbed my arm, the same way Brianna had at the wedding. "You're going to give them that money." I looked down at her hand, then back up at her face. "Take your hand off me." "Not until you listen," she hissed. "My son and your daughter are in serious financial trouble because of you. They counted on that money. They need it. They should have thought about that before they put me in a hallway. Claudette's face twisted with rage. You're being ridiculous. So you didn't get a good seat. So what? Get over it. It was one day. It wasn't about the seat, I said quietly. It was about respect. It was about my daughter choosing to humiliate me to make you happy. It was about being treated like I don't matter. You don't matter. The words exploded out of her. Not anymore. Brianna has a new family now. A better family. A family with means and connections and a future. She doesn't need some nurse from the hood dragging her down. The words hit me like a slap, but I kept my face calm. Get off my porch. Give them the money, or I'll make your life hell, Claudette threatened. I'll turn Brianna against you completely. You'll never see her again. You'll never meet your grandchildren. I'll make sure of it. You're not turning her against me, I said. She did that all by herself, and if treating me with basic respect is too much to ask, then maybe I don't want to be part of a family like that. I went inside and closed the door in her face. Through the window, I watched her stand there for a long moment, her face purple with rage. Then she got in her Mercedes and peeled out of my driveway so fast, she left tire marks on my street. I slid down the door and sat on the floor, shaking. My phone rang. It was Brianna again. This time I answered. Mama, what did you say to Terrence's mother? She was crying. She's furious. She said you were disrespectful to her. I told her to get off my porch, I said calmly. She came to try to fix this, to help us work it out. And you threw her out? She came to threaten me and call me names, I corrected. She told me I don't matter and that I'm dragging you down because I'm from the hood. Silence on the other end. Brianna, did you hear what I said? Your mother-in-law came to my house and told me I don't matter. Maybe. Brianna's voice was small now. Maybe she's right. Those 3 words cut deeper than anything else. Deeper than the hallway chair. Deeper than the missing place card. My own daughter agreeing that I didn't matter. Okay, I said softly. Okay, baby. If that's how you feel, then we're done. Don't call me anymore. Don't come to my house. Live your life with your new family and forget all about the woman who raised you. What about the money? She asked, and even through my heartbreak, I registered that that was what she cared about. Not losing me, losing the money. The money is mine, I said, and I'm going to spend it on myself for once. Maybe I'll take a vacation. Maybe I'll fix up this house you're so ashamed of. Maybe I'll finally live my life instead of living for someone who doesn't even respect me. You're being selfish, Brianna shouted. We're going to lose our house. Then you should have been nicer to the woman who was going to help you buy it, I said, and I hung up. I blocked her number. I blocked Terrence's number. I blocked Claudette's number. And then I sat in my house that night, in the silence, and I waited to feel guilty. I waited to feel like I'd made a mistake. But all I felt was free. Monday morning came, and I went to see Candace Reynolds. Her office was in a nice building downtown, and when I walked in, I was greeted by a sharp-eyed black woman in her early 40s wearing a power suit that meant business. Mrs. Mitchell, she said, shaking my hand firmly, Rochelle told me a bit about your situation. Let's talk. I told her everything, start to finish. She listened without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. When I finished, she sat back in her chair and studied me. First of all, she said, that money is yours. They have no legal claim to it whatsoever. A verbal promise to give a gift is not a binding contract. You're completely in the clear legally. Relief flooded through me. They can't sue me? They can try, Candace said with a slight smile, but they won't win. And honestly, from what you've told me, I don't think they have the money to hire a lawyer right now anyway. They said they're going to lose their house. Not your problem, Candace said firmly. Mrs. Mitchell, Lorraine, I see women like you all the time. Women who give and give and give until there's nothing left. Women who let their children and families take advantage of them because that's what good mothers are supposed to do. But you know what? Good children don't treat their mothers like that. Good children show respect and gratitude. Your daughter failed you, not the other way around. The words settled over me like a warm blanket. So what do I do now? You live your life, Candace said. You take that money and you do something good with it. Take a trip, fix up your house, start a business, whatever makes you happy. And if your daughter comes to her senses and tries to make amends, real amends, not just apologizing to get the money, then you decide if you want to let her back in, on your terms, not hers. I left that office feeling like I'd just shed 100 pounds. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. That night, Rochelle came over with takeout and wine. We sat on my couch eating jerk chicken and watching old movies, and she told me about her own daughter, my niece Tamika, who'd heard what happened and was furious with Brianna. Mika wanted to go over there and cuss her out, Rochelle said, laughing. I had to talk her down. Told her you were handling it, like the queen you are. I don't feel like a queen, I admitted. I feel like I just lost my daughter. Baby, you didn't lose her, Rochelle said gently. She lost you. There's a difference. She gave up the best thing in her life because she thought she found something better, and now she's got to live with that choice. 3 days after the wedding, my doorbell rang at 7 in the morning. I was still in my bathrobe, drinking coffee and reading the paper. When I opened the door, Brianna was standing there. She looked terrible. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair was a mess, and she was wearing sweatpants and one of my old college t-shirts that she must have kept from when she lived with me. For a moment, she looked like my little girl again. "Mama," she whispered, "please. Can we talk?" I stood there in the doorway, blocking her entry. "What do you want, Brianna?" "I want to apologize," she said, fresh tears streaming down her face. "I was wrong, so wrong. I treated you terribly, and you didn't deserve any of it." "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice flat. "Why now?" She looked down at her feet. "We lost the house. The sale fell through because we couldn't come up with the down payment. And Terrence..." She started sobbing. "He's saying it's my fault. He's saying I ruined everything by disrespecting you. His mother's mad at him for taking your side, and now she's threatening to cut him off financially. Everything's falling apart." I listened to all of this without expression. "So you're here because you need money?" "No," she looked up quickly. "I'm here because I miss my mama. Because I realized what I did was unforgivable, and I'm hoping maybe you can forgive me anyway." "Why should I?" The question hung between us. Brianna opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Because," she started, then stopped. "Because I'm your daughter?" "That's not a reason," I said. "That's an excuse. Being my daughter means you should have treated me better in the first place. Give me a real reason." She stood there on my porch, struggling for words, and I realized something. She didn't have a real reason. She was sorry because she was facing consequences, not because she genuinely understood what she'd done wrong. "I can't do this right now," I said, starting to close the door. "Mama, please." She pushed against the door. "I'll do anything. Just tell me what you want me to do." "I want you to understand why what you did was wrong," I said. "Not because you lost your house, or because Terrence is mad at you, or because his mama's cutting him off. I want you to understand that you hurt me, that you humiliated me, that you chose to make me feel small to impress people who don't actually care about you." "I understand that now," she insisted. "Do you? Because 3 days ago, you told me your mother-in-law was right. You told me I don't matter." Brianna flinched like I'd hit her. "I didn't mean that. I was just upset and you meant it," I finished. "You meant every word. And that's what I can't forgive right now. Not the wedding, not the chair, but the fact that my own daughter thinks I don't matter." I closed the door on her crying face and locked it. She stood out there for 20 minutes, knocking and calling my name, begging me to open the door. I sat on my couch and listened to every word, and I didn't move. Eventually, she left, and I sat in the silence of my house, surrounded by pictures of a little girl who used to love me, and I wondered if that little girl was ever coming back, or if she'd been gone longer than I wanted to admit, and I'd just been too blind to see it until now. 2 weeks went by, and I started living my life again. Really living it, not just surviving it. I went to work at the hospital, came home, had dinner with Rochelle, went to church on Sundays. I didn't check to see if Brianna called because her number was still blocked. I didn't drive past her apartment to see if she was okay. I didn't give in to that mother's instinct that wanted to fix everything for her. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in 23 years. I put myself first. I used $2,000 from that envelope to book a cruise to the Caribbean. 7 days of sun and ocean, and nobody needing anything from me. Sister Patricia from church almost fell out of her chair when I told her. "Lorraine Mitchell, taking a vacation?" she gasped. "By herself. Girl, I'm proud of you." "I'm proud of me too," I said, and I meant it. The cruise was leaving in 2 months, which gave me time to get my passport renewed and buy some new clothes. I went shopping at the mall with Rochelle, and we spent hours trying on sundresses and swimsuits. I hadn't bought new clothes in years. Everything I owned was either nurse scrubs or church clothes. "Try on the red one," Rochelle urged, holding up a beautiful red dress with a flowing skirt. "That's too young for me," I protested. "Girl, please, you're 58, not 88. Try it on." I did, and when I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The woman staring back at me looked confident, happy, free. "I'll take it," I told the sales clerk. At the register, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I opened it and immediately wished I hadn't. "This is Terrence. Please unblock Brianna. She's not eating. She's not sleeping. She's making herself sick over this. Whatever happened between you two, she's still your daughter. She needs her mother." I showed the text to Rochelle. She rolled her eyes. "Don't respond. He's trying to manipulate you." "I know," I said, but my heart still ached. The thought of Brianna suffering hurt me, even after everything. Lorraine, listen to me, Rochelle said seriously. You taught your daughter a valuable lesson. Actions have consequences. If you give in now, you're teaching her that she can treat you however she wants, and you'll always come running back. Is that what you want? No, I said firmly. No, it's not. I blocked Terrence's number 2. That Sunday at church, Pastor Williams gave a sermon about forgiveness. I sat in my usual pew and listened to him talk about how we have to forgive people who wrong us, how holding grudges only hurts ourselves, how God wants us to show mercy. After service, he caught me on my way out. Sister Lorraine, can I speak with you for a moment? My stomach dropped. Had someone told him about Brianna? Was he about to lecture me about being a bad mother? We went into his office, and he gestured for me to sit. Pastor Williams was a good man in his early 60s, with kind eyes and a gentle manner. He'd baptized Brianna when she was 12. I heard about what happened at Brianna's wedding, he said gently. There it was. I braced myself for the lecture. And I want you to know, he continued, that you did the right thing. I blinked in surprise. I did? Forgiveness doesn't mean being a doormat, Pastor Williams said. God wants us to forgive, yes, but he also wants us to have dignity and self-respect. He doesn't ask us to let people abuse us in the name of being good Christians. What Brianna did to you was wrong, plain and simple. And until she truly understands that and makes real amends, you have every right to protect yourself. Tears sprang to my eyes. Everyone keeps acting like I'm the bad guy, like I'm the one who ruined her wedding. You didn't ruin anything, he said firmly. She ruined it herself when she decided to humiliate the woman who raised her. And sometimes, Sister Lorraine, the most loving thing we can do is let people face the consequences of their choices. I left his office feeling validated in a way I hadn't felt since this whole thing started. But as I walked to my car, I saw a familiar figure waiting by my driver's side door. Claudette Harrison. Are you following me now? I asked, my voice cold. We need to talk, she said. She looked different than the last time I'd seen her, less put together. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, and there were dark circles under her eyes. I said everything I needed to say the last time you showed up at my house. Please. The words seemed to physically hurt her to say. Just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I nodded. We stood there in the church parking lot, and Claudette took a deep breath. Terrence and Brianna are separating, she said. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. What? He blames her for everything, for losing the house, for the rift with you, for making him choose between his wife and his mother. They've been fighting non-stop since the wedding. This morning, he moved back in with me. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt sick. Brianna is devastated, Claudette continued. She's been calling him non-stop, but he won't answer. She came to my house yesterday, begging to talk to him, but She paused, swallowing hard. I turned her away. Why are you telling me this? Claudette's eyes filled with tears. Because I was wrong, about everything. I thought I was protecting my son from making a mistake. I thought Brianna wasn't good enough for him because she didn't come from money, because her mother was just a nurse who lived in the old neighborhood. I pushed Brianna to exclude you from the wedding because I wanted to show you that you didn't belong in our world. She was crying openly now, mascara running down her face. But I destroyed my son's marriage. I destroyed your relationship with your daughter. And now everyone's miserable, including me. Terrence won't talk to me either. He says I poisoned Brianna against you, and he's ashamed of what he let happen. I stood there, processing this. What do you want from me, Claudette? I want you to forgive Brianna, she said. Please. She's falling apart. She knows she was wrong. She knows she hurt you, but she doesn't know how to fix it. That's not my problem to fix, I said quietly. She's your daughter. She's an adult who made adult choices, I countered, and now she has to live with them, just like I had to live with raising her alone. When her daddy walked out, just like I had to live with working doubles and going without so she could have everything she wanted. She needs to learn that you can't treat people like garbage and expect them to stick around. Claudette stared at me, then nodded slowly. You're right. You're absolutely right. She wiped her eyes. I wanted to tell you I'm sorry for everything I said to you, for how I treated you, for making Brianna think she was better than you. I was wrong, and I'm deeply, truly sorry. It was the last thing I expected to hear. Thank you, I said softly. I appreciate that. Will you at least talk to her? Claudette asked. Not for me, not for Terrence, but for her? I thought about it for a long moment. When she's ready to have a real conversation, not just asking for money or trying to fix her marriage, then maybe, but not yet. She needs time to understand what she did, and I need time to heal. Claudette nodded, defeated. She walked to her Mercedes and drove away, leaving me standing in the parking lot, wondering if I'd just made the right decision or the worst mistake of my life. That week at work, everything changed again. I was checking on a patient when one of the other nurses, Kenya, pulled me aside. Girl, there's someone in the waiting room asking for you. Who? Some young girl says she's your daughter. My heart started racing. I wasn't ready for this. Not at work, not now. But when I got to the waiting room, it wasn't Brianna sitting there. It was a young woman I'd never seen before. She was maybe 19 or 20, with long braids and nervous eyes. When she saw me, she stood up quickly. Are you Lorraine Mitchell? She asked. Yes, can I help you? She took a deep breath. My name is Destiny Walker, and I think you might be my grandmother. The world tilted sideways. What? Can we talk somewhere private? She asked, glancing around at the crowded waiting room. I led her to a consultation room, my mind racing. Grandmother? How was that possible? Unless... Brianna's your mother? I asked as soon as we were alone. No, Destiny said. Your ex-husband, Marcus Mitchell, is my grandfather, which means you're my step-grandmother, kind of. It's complicated. I sat down heavily. Marcus, Brianna's father, the man who'd walked out on us 23 years ago and never looked back. I haven't seen or heard from Marcus in over 2 decades. I know, Destiny said. He's not exactly Father of the Year or Grandfather of the Year, but he told me about you before he died last month. He's dead? I felt nothing, not sadness, not relief, just nothing. Liver failure, Destiny said, from drinking. But before he died, he told me about Brianna, about you, about how he messed everything up. He asked me to find you and tell you. She pulled out a wrinkled envelope. He wrote you a letter. I stared at the envelope like it was a snake. Why would I want to read anything from him? Because it explains some things, Destiny said, about why he left, about what happened with Brianna's trust fund. My head snapped up. What trust fund? Destiny's eyes widened. You don't know? Know what? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Maybe you should just read the letter. With shaking hands, I took the envelope and opened it. Marcus's handwriting was shaky and hard to read, but the words were clear enough. Lorraine, if you're reading this, I'm dead. Good riddance, right? I know you probably hate me, and you have every right to. I was a coward and a drunk and a terrible husband and father. But there's something you need to know. When I left, I didn't just walk away. My mother, Brianna's grandmother, on my side, had set up a trust fund for Brianna when she was born. $50,000. It was supposed to be for college, but could be accessed when she turned 25. I never told you about it because I was angry and stupid. I figured if I couldn't be in Brianna's life, at least she'd have something from my family. But here's the thing, that trust matured 2 years ago. Brianna should have gotten a letter about it. If she didn't, someone might be keeping it from her. I'm telling you this because you deserved better from me. You deserved honesty, and Brianna deserves to know about that money. Do with this information what you will. Marcus. I read the letter 3 times, my hands shaking harder each time. $50,000. Brianna had $50,000 she didn't even know about. Who would keep this from her? I asked Destiny. She bit her lip. I've been asking around. Doing some digging. The trust was managed by a law firm downtown. I called them, pretending to be Brianna, and they told me the notification letters were sent to the address on file. But here's the weird part. The address they had wasn't Brianna's. It was someone named Claudette Harrison's address. My blood ran cold. What? Yeah, Destiny said. I looked her up. She's Brianna's mother-in-law, right? Why would trust fund information be going to her address? I knew exactly why. Because Claudette had somehow gotten control of Brianna's information, had somehow intercepted those letters, had hidden $50,000 from Brianna while letting her daughter-in-law beg me for money. That witch, I breathed. Destiny leaned forward. There's more. I talked to someone at the law firm, off the record. They said there were multiple letters sent over the past 2 years. All of them returned to sender or never responded to. But get this, 6 months ago, someone called pretending to be Brianna and asked for the trust to be transferred to a different account. They had all her information, social security number, birth date, everything. And they transferred it. No, the lawyer got suspicious because the voice sounded too old to be Brianna. They flagged it as potential fraud and froze the account. The money's still there, but it can't be accessed until Brianna comes in person with valid ID and proves she's really her. I sat back, my mind reeling. Claudette had tried to steal Brianna's trust fund. She'd kept the letters from her, then tried to steal the money herself. And while she was doing all that, she was pushing Brianna to get money from me. Why are you telling me this? I asked Destiny. Because my grandfather asked me to, she said simply. Because it's the right thing to do, and because, she hesitated, because I know what it's like to have family lie to you. My dad did it to me my whole life. I don't want Brianna to go through that. I looked at this young woman, this stranger who was technically family through the worst marriage of my life, and I felt grateful. "Thank you," I said. "This must have been hard to track down." "It was," she admitted, "but worth it. What are you going to do?" That was the question. What was I going to do? Brianna had treated me terribly, but she'd been manipulated by Claudette. Did that excuse her behavior? No, but it explained some of it. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "But I need to think about it." Destiny stood up to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, my grandfather said you were the best person he ever knew. He said leaving you was the biggest mistake of his life. I think he was right." After she left, I sat in that consultation room for 20 minutes, just thinking. Then I pulled out my phone and unblocked Brianna's number. I didn't call her, I just unblocked it. Because whether I liked it or not, we needed to talk. That night, I called Rochelle and Candace over to my house. I told them everything: the letter, the trust fund, Claudette's attempted theft. By the time I finished, Rochelle was pacing my living room like a caged tiger. "That woman tried to steal from Brianna," she shouted. "Her own daughter-in-law." "Can we prove it?" I asked Candace. "Maybe," Candace said slowly. "If the law firm kept records of that fraudulent call, we might be able to trace it back to Claudette. But more importantly, we need to tell Brianna about the trust fund. That money is legally hers. And if I tell her, she'll know Claudette's been lying to her this whole time," I said. "It might destroy what's left of her marriage." "Her marriage is already destroyed," Rochelle pointed out. "Terrence moved out, remember? This isn't about saving their relationship. This is about Brianna knowing the truth." She was right, but I was scared. Scared of what this information would do. Scared of how Brianna would react. Scared that she'd somehow find a way to blame me for this too. "I need to sleep on it," I said, but I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. About Brianna as a baby. About the first time she said mama. About her first day of school. About every sacrifice I'd made for her. And I thought about the young woman she'd become. The one who'd put me in a hallway. The one who'd told me I didn't matter. The one who'd been manipulated by a woman who pretended to care about her while trying to rob her blind. My phone buzzed at 2 a.m, a text from Brianna's number. "Mama, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not because I lost Terrence or the house, but because I hurt you. You're the best mother anyone could ask for, and I treated you like you were nothing. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I finally understand what I did wrong." I stared at that text for a long time, then I typed back, "We need to talk. Come to my house tomorrow at noon. Come alone." 3 dots appeared, showing she was typing. Then, "I'll be there. Thank you, Mama." I set my phone down and finally fell asleep, not knowing whether I was making the right choice or walking into another heartbreak. The next day, Brianna showed up at exactly noon. She looked even worse than she had 2 weeks ago. She'd lost weight. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She had no makeup on, and I could see the toll everything had taken on her face. "Come in," I said quietly. We sat in my living room, not touching, an ocean of hurt between us. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "Thank you for seeing me," Brianna finally said. "I have something to tell you," I said, "and you need to listen to everything before you say anything. Can you do that?" She nodded, looking scared. I told her everything about destiny, about the letter from her father, about the trust fund, about Claudette intercepting the letters and trying to steal the money. I watched her face change as I spoke, from confusion to shock to disbelief to fury. When I finished, she was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. "She tried to steal from me?" "Yes." "She's been lying to me this whole time?" "Yes." "She made me think I had nothing. She made me pressure you for money. She made me believe we were going to lose everything because of you." Brianna's voice rose with each word. "And all this time, I had $50,000 she was trying to take?" "Yes." Brianna stood up, her whole body shaking. "I have to go. I need to talk to Terrence. I need to—" "Brianna, sit down." Something in my voice made her obey. She sat, her hands clenched into fists. "Before you do anything," I said, "you need to understand something. Claudette manipulated you, yes, but you still made choices. You still chose to put me in that hallway. You still chose to tell me I didn't matter. Claudette didn't force you to do those things. You did them yourself." "I know," Brianna whispered. "I know, Mama. And I'm so sorry. I let her get in my head. I let her make me think I was better than you, better than where I came from. I was so desperate to fit into Terrence's world that I forgot where I came from. I forgot the woman who gave up everything for me." She slid off the couch and onto her knees in front of me, sobbing. "Please, Mama, please forgive me. I know I don't deserve it, but please, you're all I have left." I looked down at my daughter, broken and crying at my feet, and I felt my heart crack open. She'd hurt me, deeply, but she was still my baby girl. I reached down and lifted her chin so she was looking at me. "I forgive you," I said softly. "But things are going to be different now. You're going to respect me. You're going to treat me like I matter. And you're never going to let anyone, not Claudette, not Terrence, not anybody, make you think I'm less than. Can you do that?" "Yes," she sobbed. "Yes, Mama, I promise." I pulled her up and hugged her, and we both cried. For everything we'd lost, for everything we'd found, for the long road ahead of us. When we finally pulled apart, Brianna wiped her eyes. "What do I do about Claudette?" "That's up to you," I said. "But I think Candace would be happy to help you get your money and maybe look into pressing charges for attempted fraud." Brianna's eyes hardened. "Make the call." We spent the rest of the afternoon at Candace's office. She took down all the information, contacted the law firm managing the trust, and confirmed that yes, there had been a fraudulent attempt to access the funds. The law firm had phone records, they had timestamps, they had everything they needed to prove it was Claudette who'd made that call. "We can press charges," Candace said. "Attempted theft, fraud, maybe even identity theft. She could do real time for this." Brianna sat there, her face unreadable. Then she said, "Do it." "Are you sure?" I asked. "She's still your mother-in-law." "She's a thief who tried to destroy my relationship with my mother," Brianna said coldly. "And she almost succeeded. I want her to pay for what she did." Candace made the calls. By the end of the day, Claudette Harrison was going to have a very bad evening. We left the office together, and Brianna turned to me. "Will you come with me to talk to Terrence? I want him to hear everything from both of us." I hesitated. This felt like something she should do alone. But when I looked at her face, I saw my little girl again, scared and needing her mama. "Okay," I said, "let's go." We drove to Claudette's house in silence. Brianna had called ahead, and Terrence agreed to meet us outside. When we pulled up, he was waiting on the porch. He looked surprised to see me. "Miss Lorraine," he said carefully. "Terrence," I nodded. Brianna didn't waste time. She told him everything, right there on his mother's front porch, about the trust fund, about Claudette's lies, about the attempted theft. With each word, I watched Terrence's face change. "No," he kept saying. "No, she wouldn't. My mother wouldn't do that." "She did," Brianna said firmly. "And I have proof. The law firm has phone records. The lawyer who took the call can identify her voice. She tried to steal $50,000 from me while making me beg for money from my mother." The front door opened, and Claudette stood there. She must have been listening through the window. Her face was pale, but her eyes were defiant. "How dare you come to my house making accusations?" she started. "The police are on their way," I said calmly. "You might want to call a lawyer." Claudette's face went white as a sheet. "What? You tried to commit fraud, Claudette," I continued. "You tried to steal from your own daughter-in-law. And you're going to pay for it." "Terrence!" Claudette turned to her son desperately. "You can't believe this. They're lying. They're trying to turn you against me." But Terrence was looking at his mother with eyes full of betrayal. "Did you do it?" he asked quietly. "Did you try to take Brianna's money?" "I was protecting you," Claudette shouted. "She was going to waste it. You needed it for the house. I was going to give it to you." "By stealing it?" Terrence's voice was ice cold. "By lying to my wife? By making her beg her mother for money when she had her own?" "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." Terrence cut her off. "You're exactly who Miss Lorraine said you were all along. And I was too blind to see it." In the distance, I could hear sirens. Claudette heard them too. Her face crumpled, and she looked at me with pure hatred. "This is all your fault," she hissed. "You couldn't just stay in your place. You had to ruin everything." "No," I said calmly. "You ruined everything when you decided you were better than everyone else. When you tried to steal. When you manipulated my daughter. You did this to yourself." The police cars pulled up, and 2 officers got out. Candace had already filed the complaint, so they knew why they were there. They approached Claudette with handcuffs, and she started screaming. "I'm not going to jail. Do you know who I am? I have connections. I have money. You can't do this to me." But they could, and they did. We all stood there and watched as they read Claudette Harrison her rights and put her in the back of a police car. She was still screaming when they drove away. Terrence stood on the porch, looking lost. Brianna went to him, and they held each other. I gave them their space, standing by my car and watching. After a few minutes, they came over. "Miss Lorraine," Terrence said, "I owe you an apology, a huge one. I let my mother poison my mind against you. I let her convince me that you weren't good enough for this family. But you were right all along, about everything." "Thank you," I said simply. "Can we—" Brianna took my hand. "Can we start over? All 3 of us?" I looked at my daughter, at her husband, at the mess we'd all made and were trying to clean up. "We can try," I said, "but it's going to take time and work, and you both need to understand that I'm not just going to forget everything that happened." "We know," Brianna said. and we're going to spend however long it takes making it right." We stood there in Claudette's driveway as the sun started to set, and I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. My phone buzzed, a text from Rochelle. "Girl, did you really just have Claudette arrested?" I smiled and texted back. "Sure did." Her response was immediate. "That's my sister. Tell me everything." As I drove home that evening, with plans to meet Brianna for lunch the next day and a cruise to the Caribbean in 6 weeks, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. But just as I pulled into my driveway, my phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Mrs. Mitchell?" A man's voice I didn't recognize. "Yes? This is Detective Morris with the Fraud Division. I'm calling about Claudette Harrison. We've been investigating her for several months now, based on other complaints. But there's something you need to know. This goes much deeper than one attempted theft. We've found evidence that she's been running a scheme involving multiple trust funds and elderly victims. And we think your daughter might not have been her only target." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "We need to talk," he said. "Can you come down to the station tomorrow morning and bring your daughter? There's something both of you need to see." He hung up before I could ask any more questions. I sat in my car, staring at my phone, wondering what fresh hell was about to unfold, and realizing that this story was far from over. The next morning, Brianna and I sat in Detective Marcus Morris's office at the police station. He was a tall black man in his mid-40s, with kind eyes and a serious expression. On his desk were stacks of files, and I had a sinking feeling they were all about to become our problem. "Thank you both for coming," he said, gesturing for us to sit. "I'm going to be honest with you. What we've uncovered about Claudette Harrison is worse than we initially thought." "Worse how?" Brianna asked, her voice shaky. Detective Morris opened one of the files. "We've been investigating Mrs. Harrison for 8 months, based on a complaint from an elderly woman named Mrs. Geneva Thompson. Mrs. Thompson is 83 years old, and she befriended Mrs. Harrison at their church, the fancy one downtown." I felt my stomach drop. "What did she do?" Mrs. Thompson's grandson had a trust fund set up by his late father, $50,000, similar to yours, Miss Brianna. Claudette somehow got access to the information and convinced Mrs. Thompson that the trust fund was in danger of being seized by the IRS due to unpaid taxes. She offered to help by having the money transferred to a safe account, which turned out to be her own. She stole $50,000 from an old lady. Brianna's voice was barely a whisper. "That's just the beginning," Detective Morris continued. "Once we started digging, we found 4 more victims, all elderly, all members of that same church, all with relatives who had trust funds or inheritances they didn't know about. Claudette would befriend them, gain their trust, get access to their family information, and then steal." He spread out photographs on his desk. 5 elderly black faces stared up at us. Mrs. Thompson, Mr. James Washington, Mrs. Pearl Dixon, Mr. Robert Chen, and Mrs. Althea Brown. Between them, Claudette Harrison stole over $300,000. I felt sick. 300,000? And she's been doing this for at least 3 years that we can prove, Detective Morris said. She targets people at that church because they're wealthy and often don't have close relationships with their extended families. She presents herself as a friend, someone who cares, and then she robs them blind. Brianna was crying now. I married into a family of criminals. How did I not see it? Because she's good at what she does, Detective Morris said gently. She's charming, convincing. She knows how to manipulate people. You're not the first person she's fooled, and if we hadn't caught her, you wouldn't have been the last. What happens now? I asked. We need Brianna to testify, he said. Your case is the strongest because we have the phone records of her attempting the fraud. The elderly victims, some of them actually gave her access willingly, thinking they were helping. It's harder to prove criminal intent in those cases. But yours is clear-cut. If you testify, we can put her away for a long time. Brianna wiped her eyes. I'll do it, whatever you need. There's one more thing, Detective Morris said carefully. We believe Terrence might have known something about his mother's activities. The room went silent. What? Brianna finally managed. We found bank statements showing transfers from Claudette's account to Terrence's account. $50,000 over the past 2 years. Always in small amounts, always just under the reporting threshold. We need to investigate whether he was complicit or if his mother was using him to launder the money. Brianna stood up so fast her chair fell over. No, Terrence wouldn't. He didn't know. He couldn't have. We need to talk to him, Detective Morris said. He's not under arrest. We just need to ask some questions. I'll bring him in, Brianna said firmly. Today, right now, because I know my husband, and I know he's not a thief. 2 hours later, we were all back at the station. Terrence sat in an interrogation room with Detective Morris, while Brianna and I waited outside. Through the one-way glass, we could see everything. Mr. Harrison, Detective Morris began, can you explain these deposits from your mother? Terrence looked at the bank statements, his brow furrowed. She said they were gifts. She said she wanted to help us out because we were struggling. $50,000 over 2 years? That's a lot of gifts. My mother has money, Terrence said. At least I thought she did. She drives a Mercedes. She wears designer clothes. I just thought she was being generous. Did you ever ask where the money came from? Terrence hesitated. No? Should I have? Most people would be curious about sudden generosity, Detective Morris pointed out. I guess I didn't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, Terrence admitted. We were struggling with the house, with bills. My mother knew that. I thought she was just helping. Detective Morris leaned forward. Did you know she was stealing from elderly people at her church? What? No. Terrence looked genuinely shocked. Is that where the money came from? We believe so. We're still tracing it, but yes, the money your mother gave you likely came from fraud victims. Terrence put his head in his hands. Oh God, I had no idea. I swear I didn't know. I watched him through the glass, and I believed him. He looked devastated, broken, nothing like the confident man who'd married my daughter 2 weeks ago. He didn't know, Brianna whispered beside me. Look at him. He had no idea. Detective Morris questioned Terrence for another hour, going through every deposit, every transaction, every conversation with his mother. By the end, it was clear that while Terrence had been naive and perhaps willfully ignorant, he hadn't been an active participant in his mother's crimes. We're going to need you to return the money, Detective Morris said finally. It belongs to the victims. I don't have it, Terrence said miserably. We spent it on the wedding, on deposits for the house that fell through. on bills. It's gone." "Then you're going to have to figure out how to pay it back," Detective Morris said, "because those people deserve their money." When Terrence came out of the interrogation room, he looked like he'd aged 10 years. Brianna went to him immediately, and they held each other while he cried. "I'm so sorry," he kept saying. "I should have questioned it. I should have asked. I was so stupid." "We both were," Brianna said. "We let her manipulate us. We let her poison everything." I stood there watching them, and I felt a strange mixture of pity and satisfaction. They were learning the hard way that actions have consequences, that turning a blind eye doesn't make you innocent, that family loyalty has limits. "Miss Lorraine," Terrence said, turning to me, "I know I don't deserve to ask, but we have to pay back $50,000. We don't have it. We don't even have jobs that pay enough to save that much. We're going to lose everything." He wasn't asking for money directly, but the implication was clear. I looked at my daughter, who was looking at me with desperate, pleading eyes. "No," I said simply. "Mama," Brianna started. "No," I repeated. "I'm not bailing you out of this. You both made choices, bad choices, and now you have to live with them. You have to figure out how to fix this yourselves." "But how?" Terrence asked. "How are we supposed to come up with $50,000? "Get second jobs, sell your things, work overtime. Do what I did for 23 years while I was raising Brianna alone," I said. "You figure it out, because that's what adults do." The look on their faces hurt my heart, but I didn't back down. They needed to learn this lesson. They needed to understand that I wasn't their ATM or their safety net. I was a person who deserved respect. "However," I added, "I will help you in one way. I'll lend you the money to get a good bankruptcy attorney. If you have to file for bankruptcy to deal with this debt, you should do it right, but that's all I'm doing. The rest is on you." "Thank you," Brianna whispered. "Thank you, Mama." Over the next 3 weeks, everything moved fast. Claudette was formally charged with multiple counts of fraud, theft, and identity theft. The story made the news. Socialite accused of preying on elderly church members. Her fancy friends disappeared overnight. Her church expelled her. Her perfect reputation crumbled to dust. The preliminary hearing was set for early November. Brianna was called to testify, and she asked me to come with her. I sat in the courtroom gallery, watching my daughter take the stand and tell the truth about what Claudette had done. Claudette sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, a far cry from her designer suits. When Brianna testified about the trust fund, about the intercepted letters, about the attempted theft, Claudette's face remained stone cold. No remorse, no shame, just anger that she'd been caught. "And why do you believe Mrs. Harrison targeted you specifically?" the prosecutor asked. "Because she thought I was weak," Brianna said clearly. "She thought I was so desperate to fit into her world that I'd let her control me. And for a while she was right. I did let her control me. I let her turn me against my own mother. I let her make me think I was better than where I came from. But she was wrong about one thing." "What's that?" "She thought my mother would let her get away with it," Brianna said, looking directly at Claudette. "She thought my mother was too kind, too forgiving, too weak to fight back. But my mother is the strongest person I know, and she taught me that strength isn't about being mean or manipulative. It's about standing up for yourself and not letting people treat you like you don't matter. I felt tears streaming down my face. My baby girl, she'd finally understood. The defense attorney tried to discredit Brianna's testimony, suggesting she was lying to get revenge for the failed marriage. But when they presented the phone records from the law firm, when they showed the pattern of intercepted mail, when they brought in the other elderly victims to testify, the case against Claudette became overwhelming. The trial was set for January. In the meantime, Claudette was denied bail because she was considered a flight risk. She would spend the holidays in jail. Terrence visited his mother once. He came back looking hollow. "She's not sorry," he told us. "She's just mad she got caught. She said I was weak for siding with you over her. She said I chose wrong." "You chose right," Brianna said firmly. "For the first time since we met, you chose right." They decided to separate officially. Not divorce, not yet. But they needed time apart to figure out who they were without Claudette's influence. Terrence moved into a small apartment across town. He got a second job working nights. He was trying to save money to pay back what his mother had stolen. Brianna moved back in with me. It was temporary, she said, just until she got back on her feet. But I didn't mind. It was like having my daughter back. The real one, not the one Claudette had turned her into. We spent evenings cooking dinner together, watching movies, talking about everything. She apologized 100 more times for the wedding, and I told her she was forgiven. Not because she'd suffered enough, but because she'd genuinely changed. "I'm going to make this right," she told me one night. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life making this right." You don't have to spend the rest of your life making up for a few months of mistakes, I said gently. You just have to be better going forward. That's all any of us can do. In October, I went on my Caribbean cruise. Rochelle came with me, and we spent 7 days in the sun, drinking fruity drinks and laughing until we cried. I wore my red dress and danced with a nice man from Atlanta who told me I was beautiful. I swam in the ocean. I watched sunsets. I lived. On the last night of the cruise, I stood on the deck looking at the stars, and I called Brianna. "How's it going, baby?" "Good," she said. "I got a promotion at work today. More money. It'll help with paying back the debt." "I'm proud of you," I said, and I meant it. "Mama, I want you to know. This time, without Claudette's voice in my head, has been eye-opening. I see now how much she manipulated me, how she made me doubt myself and doubt you. But I also see how I let her do it. I made choices, bad ones, and I'm owning that now. That's all I ever wanted," I said softly, "for you to take responsibility and do better." "I will," she promised. "I am. And Mama, when you get back, I want to throw you a proper party, a celebration of you, of everything you've done for me, of everything you are. Will you let me do that?" I smiled into the phone. "Yeah, baby, I'll let you do that." When I came home from the cruise, Brianna had organized a celebration at Rochelle's house. It wasn't fancy, just family and close friends. But everyone was there to celebrate me, to thank me for being strong, to acknowledge what I'd been through. Sister Patricia from church gave a toast. To Sister Lorraine, who showed us all that setting boundaries isn't mean, it's necessary. Who taught us that self-respect isn't selfish, it's survival? Who proved that you can forgive without being a doormat? Everyone raised their glasses, and I felt loved in a way I hadn't felt in years. Terrence came to the party too. He pulled me aside before he left. "Miss Lorraine, I want you to know I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of your daughter. I'm going to be the man she deserves, the man you deserve to call your son-in-law." "I believe you," I said. "Just don't make me regret it." He smiled, a real smile this time. "I won't, I promise." In January, Claudette's trial began. It lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution brought in victim after victim, elderly people who'd trusted her, who'd thought she was their friend, who'd been devastated when they learned the truth. Mrs. Geneva Thompson testified in a wheelchair. She was 83 and had lost her grandson's entire trust fund. "I thought she cared about me," she said, crying on the stand. "I thought she was my friend, but she was just waiting for a chance to rob me." Mr. James Washington testified about losing his late wife's life insurance money that he'd been saving for his great-grandchildren's education. "She came to my wife's funeral," he said, his voice breaking. "She held my hand and cried with me, and then she stole from me." One by one, dinged. They told their stories, and one by one Claudette's facade crumbled. The jury saw her for what she really was, a predator who targeted the vulnerable and stole without conscience. When it was Brianna's turn to testify again, she was stronger than she'd been at the preliminary hearing. She looked Claudette in the eye and told the truth. All of it. How Claudette had manipulated her, how she'd tried to turn her against me, how she'd hidden the trust fund while pushing Brianna to beg me for money. "She almost destroyed my relationship with my mother," Brianna said. "The one person who loved me unconditionally, the one person who sacrificed everything for me. And I almost let her do it, but my mother taught me something important. She taught me that love isn't about control. It's about respect. And Mrs. Harrison didn't respect anyone but herself." The defense tried to paint Claudette as a woman who'd made mistakes but wasn't a criminal. They argued she was confused, that she'd meant to help people but got overwhelmed. But the evidence was too strong. The phone records, the bank transfers, the testimonies. Everything pointed to a calculated pattern of theft. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, Claudette stood with her lawyer, her face pale but still defiant. "On the count of fraud in the first degree, how do you find?" "Guilty." "On the count of theft from an elderly person, how do you find?" "Guilty." "On the count of identity theft, how do you find?" "Guilty." "Guilty, guilty, guilty." 8 counts total, each one another nail in the coffin of Claudette Harrison's perfect life. At sentencing 2 weeks later, the judge was harsh. "Mrs. Harrison, you targeted the most vulnerable members of your community. You betrayed the trust of people who considered you a friend. You stole not just money, but peace of mind, security, and dignity. You showed no remorse, no empathy, no understanding of the harm you caused." He sentenced her to 15 years in prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 7. Claudette's scream echoed through the courtroom. Her lawyer tried to calm her, but she was hysterical. "This is all Lorraine Mitchell's fault," she shrieked, pointing at me. "She did this. She turned everyone against me. This is her fault." Even in the end, she couldn't take responsibility. Even facing 15 years in prison, She blamed everyone but herself. Security escorted her out, still screaming. Brianna grabbed my hand and squeezed. "It's over," she whispered. "It's finally over." But it wasn't quite over. Not yet. After the sentencing, the victims filed a civil lawsuit to recover their money. The court ordered Claudette's assets seized. Her house, her cars, her designer clothes, everything. It would be sold to repay what she'd stolen. But there still wasn't enough. Even after selling everything, there was a shortfall of about $100,000. The victims were going to lose money. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my envelope, the one I'd walked out of Brianna's wedding with. It still had $15,000 in it. I'd used $2,000 for my cruise. The rest was sitting there, waiting. I thought about those elderly people, about Mrs. Thompson in her wheelchair, about Mr. Washington crying over his wife's stolen life insurance, about how Claudette had targeted them because they were vulnerable. And I thought about what Sister Patricia had said at my party, about boundaries being necessary, about self-respect being survival. But I also thought about something else, about kindness, about empathy, about being the person you want to see in the world. I called Detective Morris. "I want to donate $13,000 to the victim fund," I told him. "Mrs. Mitchell, you don't have to do that. This wasn't your fault." "I know it wasn't," I said, "but I can help, and I want to. Those people deserve their money back. Not all of it. I can't afford that. But something to show them that not everyone is like Claudette, that some people still care." There was a long silence, then, "You're a good person, Lorraine Mitchell." "I'm just a person," I said, trying to do the right thing. The next week, there was a gathering of the victims at the church. Detective Morris had arranged it so they could meet each other, share their experiences, and get information about the restitution process. He asked me to come. When he announced my donation, the room went silent. Then Mrs. Thompson wheeled herself over to me. She took my hand in both of hers. "Thank you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you for caring about people you don't even know." "I may not know you," I said gently, "but I know what it's like to be hurt by Claudette Harrison, and I know you deserve better." One by one, the other victims came to thank me, to hug me, to tell me their stories. And I listened to every single one because that's what they needed, someone to listen, someone to care. Mr. Washington pulled me aside. "Why did you do this?" he asked. "After everything you went through, why help us?" "Because holding on to anger and pain only hurts me," I said. "Claudette took enough from all of us. I'm not giving her my joy or my compassion too. I'm choosing to be kind because that's who I am, not because of what anyone did or didn't do to me." He nodded slowly, understanding in his eyes. "You're a wise woman." "I'm a woman who's learned some hard lessons," I said, "and I'm trying to make something good come out of something bad." By spring, life had settled into a new normal. Brianna and Terrence reconciled and moved into a small apartment together. Not the fancy house they'd dreamed of, but a place they could afford while they paid back their debt. Brianna got her trust fund money, all $50,000. She used $30,000 to pay back part of what Terrence owed to the victims. She put the remaining $20,000 into savings for their future. "I'm not touching it," she told me. "Not for anything except absolute emergencies." I want to build this the right way, slowly, honestly, no shortcuts. Terrence kept his 2 jobs and went back to school at night to get his MBA. He was determined to build a better life, the right way. And me, I went back to my normal life, work at the hospital, church on Sundays, dinner with Rochelle every Wednesday. But it was different now. I was different. I had boundaries. I had self-respect. I had a daughter who treated me with the love and respect I deserved. And I had peace. One Sunday in April, Brianna and Terrence came to church with me. Afterwards, we went to lunch at this little soul food restaurant in my neighborhood. The kind of place Claudette would have called beneath her. "This is amazing," Terrence said, eating his fried chicken and greens. "How did I never know about this place?" "Because you were too busy trying to impress people at fancy restaurants," Brianna said, but she was smiling. "Mama's been bringing me here since I was little. Best food in the city." "You got that right," I said, taking a bite of my cornbread. Terrence looked at me seriously. "Miss Lorraine, I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Okay? Do you think you'll ever really forgive me for what happened at the wedding, for how I treated you?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "I already have," I said finally, "not because you deserve it, not even because you've earned it yet, but because holding on to it hurts me more than it hurts you. You're still proving yourself, and you will be for a long time. But I forgive you." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "Thank you." "I won't let you down." "See that you don't," I said, but I was smiling. In May, I got a letter from Mrs. Geneva Thompson. She'd written to thank me again for the donation and to tell me how the restitution was going. At the end, she wrote something that made me cry. "You could have been bitter. After what your daughter and her mother-in-law did to you, you had every right to walk away and never look back. But instead, you chose kindness. You chose compassion. You chose to help people you didn't even know because it was the right thing to do. You're the kind of person this world needs more of. Thank you for reminding an old woman that good people still exist." I put that letter on my refrigerator, where I could see it every day. A reminder that even when people hurt us, even when we're justified in our anger, we can still choose kindness. We can still choose to be better. In June, Brianna asked me to go wedding dress shopping with her. She and Terrence had decided to renew their vows, to do it right this time. Small ceremony, just close family and friends. Nothing fancy, nothing performative, just real love and real commitment. "I want you to sit in the front row," she said as we looked at dresses, "right next to me, where you should have been the first time." "I'd like that," I said softly. She found a simple white dress, nothing like the elaborate gown from the first wedding. This one was understated and elegant, beautiful in its simplicity. "What do you think, Mama?" "I think you look perfect," I said. "I think you look like yourself." The vow renewal was in July, in the backyard of Rochelle's house. 30 people, a minister from our church. Simple decorations. Real joy. When Brianna walked down the makeshift aisle, she walked alone, no one to give her away. But when she got to the front where Terrence was waiting, she stopped and turned to me. "Mama, will you come stand with me?" I stood up and went to her, taking her hand. We stood there together as she and Terrence renewed their vows. Vows about respect, about honesty, about being partners in building a real life together. "I promise to honor your mother as my own," Terrence said, looking at me as he said it. To treat her with the respect she deserves. To never forget what she sacrificed for you, for us. When the ceremony was over and everyone was eating and laughing, Brianna pulled me aside. "Thank you," she said, "for not giving up on me, for teaching me what real strength looks like, for showing me that love means boundaries and respect. Not just forgiveness." "You're welcome, baby," I said, hugging her tight. "I'm proud of the woman you've become, not the woman Claudette tried to make you into, but the woman you chose to be." "I learned from the best," she said. That night, after everyone left and I was home alone, I sat on my porch with a glass of wine and thought about everything that had happened, about the hallway chair, about the $15,000, about Claudette's arrest and trial, about choosing kindness even when it was hard. My phone buzzed, a text from Destiny, Marcus's granddaughter, who'd brought me the letter about the trust fund. We'd stayed in touch, building a relationship that had nothing to do with Marcus and everything to do with us. "Just wanted to say thank you again for being so kind when I showed up out of nowhere. You didn't have to be, but you were. It meant more than you know." I texted back, "Thank you for being brave enough to tell the truth. You saved my daughter from a terrible situation." "We saved each other," she replied. "That's what family does." Family. I thought about that word, about how it's not just blood, it's choice, it's respect, it's showing up for each other. It's telling the truth even when it's hard. It's setting boundaries and honoring them. It's forgiveness without being a doormat. I thought about Brianna, learning what real love looks like, about Terrence working 2 jobs to make things right, about the elderly victims getting some of their money back and rebuilding their trust, about Claudette sitting in prison with 15 years to think about what she'd done. And I thought about me, Lorraine Mitchell, 58-year-old nurse from the old neighborhood who'd stood up for herself and changed everything. I'd lost a lot on that wedding day, my innocence about my daughter, my belief that family always has your back, my willingness to be a doormat in the name of love, but I'd gained something too, self-respect, boundaries, peace, a real relationship with my daughter based on mutual respect, not obligation, and the knowledge that I could survive anything, even the worst betrayal from the person I loved most. As I sat there on my porch, watching the sun set over my little house in my old neighborhood, the neighborhood Claudette had called beneath her, I felt happy, really, truly happy, not because everything was perfect, not because all the pain had disappeared, but because I'd survived. I'd stood up, I'd set boundaries, I'd chosen myself. And I'd done it all while staying true to who I was. A woman who believed in kindness, in justice, in second chances, and in never letting anyone make you feel like you don't matter. Because I do matter. We all do. And it took a folding chair in a hallway to teach me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for others, is to walk away. And then, when they've learned their lesson and proven they've changed, you can choose to walk back. On your terms, with your dignity intact. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's survival. That's freedom. And that's exactly what I had. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.